Have you ever met someone who drains the room the moment they open their mouth? Someone who reacts before thinking, argues without logic, or turns every conversation into chaos? The truth is harsh, but necessary. Stupidity is not about low intelligence. It's about low self-awareness, poor judgment, and destructive behaviors that harm everyone around them. And the danger is real. Stupid people don't just make mistakes. They repeat them, they defend them, and worse, they expect you to tolerate the fallout. Marcus Aurelius warned that human suffering often comes not from events, but from the flawed minds interpreting them. Stoicism teaches us to recognize patterns, protect our peace, and refuse to get pulled into someone else's disorder. Today, we'll uncover 8 evident signs of a stupid person, not to judge, but to identify the behaviors that drain your energy, damage your progress, and deserve strong boundaries. Stay sharp. Let's begin. What stupidity really means. Before identifying the 8 signs, we need clarity. In Stoic philosophy, stupidity has nothing to do with intelligence, education, or how much someone knows. It describes a pattern of thinking that refuses to learn, refuses to self-reflect, and refuses to take responsibility. It is a mental posture, not a permanent label. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed by the color of its thoughts." A foolish mind becomes predictable, reactive, impulsive, and blind to its own errors. Seneca warned that most human suffering does not come from external events, but from poor judgment, and poor judgment is the core of stupidity. The Stoic lens. 3 root traits. Stoicism teaches that destructive behavior consistently comes from 3 mental habits. 1. Distorted perception. They misread people, situations, and intentions. Their feelings override facts. 2. Impulsive action. They speak without understanding. They decide without thinking. They argue without listening. 3. Zero accountability. Every mistake belongs to someone else. Circumstances, luck, other people, never themselves. Once you recognize these roots, every other sign becomes obvious. Why Stoics consider stupidity dangerous. Epictetus warned that foolishness spreads like a virus. Stand near someone who is reactive, defensive, or emotionally chaotic, and your own clarity begins to blur. Their problems become your problems. Their instability forces you into constant management, explanation, and repair. Stupidity drains energy not because it is loud, but because it is stubborn. It refuses correction, refuses nuance, and refuses growth. The modern form of stupidity. Today, foolishness often looks confident. Loud opinions, instant reactions, false certainty, blame-shifting, emotional outbursts. The modern world rewards speed and noise, not reflection and truth. That's why Stoicism becomes your shield. It slows the mind, sharpens perception, and protects you from absorbing someone else's chaos. The Stoic protocol. Pause, probe, protect. This is the framework you'll apply for all 8 signs. Pause, don't get emotionally hooked. Their behavior only has power if you rush into defending yourself. Probe, look at patterns, not excuses. Ask, is this a one-time mistake or a consistent mindset? Protect, guard your time, your peace, and your boundaries. You can be respectful without giving access to your energy. Why this framework matters. You cannot change someone who refuses to reflect. You cannot uplift someone committed to repeating the same mistakes, but you can recognize the danger early and step back with clarity. The Stoic goal isn't to judge them. It's to protect your character, your peace, and your future. 1. They react before they think. Some people don't respond, they explode. Their reaction isn't a choice, it's a reflex. And that's the first sign of a truly foolish person. A stupid person, in the Stoic sense, doesn't pause to understand what's actually happening. Their mind runs ahead of reality, dragging their emotions behind it like a wildfire. You can watch it unfold in real time, the eyes tightening, the breathing speeding up, the voice rising before the situation even makes sense. Stoics considered this not just a flaw, but a form of self-imposed suffering. Because when you cannot separate stimulus from response, you're no longer living with intention. You're living as a slave to your impulses. They react fast, but think slow, or never. This kind of person jumps to conclusions with Olympic speed. A neutral comment becomes an insult, a misunderstanding becomes betrayal, a simple delay becomes disrespect. They live inside a narrative that they never pause to question, and everyone around them gets punished for stories that only exist in their head. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the undisciplined mind gets tugged like a puppet by each impulse, and that is exactly what you're witnessing. A mind hijacked from the inside. You can't reason with a person who reacts faster than they can reflect, and you feel this when you deal with them. They interrupt mid-sentence because they assume they already know what you're going to say. They escalate small conflicts into emotional wars. They take any correction, even gentle, as an attack on their identity. They make decisions fueled by adrenaline, not logic, and then blame everyone else for the fallout. Being around them feels like walking across a floor covered in landmines. Careful, tense, never fully relaxed. Their emotions become your responsibility. Their chaos becomes your burden. Stoics warned that foolishness is contagious. Spend enough time around someone who reacts impulsively, and you'll notice yourself shrinking, speaking less, choosing safer words, avoiding necessary conversations just to keep the peace. But that isn't peace. That's self-abandonment. And Epictetus said it best. If someone provokes you, remember, it is not them, but your judgment. The wise protect their judgment. The foolish protect their outrage. This is why the Stoic approach matters. The protocol is simple. Pause. Probe. Protect. You pause so you don't get dragged into their emotional storm. You probe the pattern. Is this who they are, or is this a bad moment? And then you protect your peace by setting boundaries. I'll talk when you're calm. I won't respond to yelling. We can continue later. Distance is not disrespect. It's self-respect. At the core, a person who reacts before thinking isn't dangerous because they're loud, but because they're unanchored. They cannot lead themselves, yet they want influence over others. They demand understanding while offering none. And if you don't recognize this early, you'll end up absorbing emotional damage that was never yours to carry. When someone can't pause, you must. 2, they always think they're right. Some people don't just have opinions. They worship them. They don't listen to understand. They listen to reload. One of the clearest signs of a foolish person is their absolute certainty. They cling to their beliefs with the desperation of someone who has nothing else holding them together. To them, being wrong is not a correction. It is an attack, an insult, a wound to their fragile identity. And because of that, they guard their ignorance as if it were treasure. A wise person seeks truth. A foolish person seeks validation. Stoicism makes a sharp distinction between the two. Marcus Aurelius wrote that only the arrogant cling to their opinions without questioning them. A wise mind stays open, flexible, curious. A foolish mind stays locked, rigid, terrified of being challenged, and you can feel that rigidity the moment you interact with someone like this. They cut you off mid-sentence. They argue with statements you never made. They twist every conversation into a performance where they're trying to win, not understand. Their need to be right isn't confidence. It's insecurity wearing a mask. Because a person who is truly confident doesn't fear correction. Only the fragile do. In the real world, this shows up in relationships, workplaces, and friendships. Try offering advice and they get defensive. Try presenting facts and they accuse you of thinking you're better. Try pointing out a mistake and suddenly you're the enemy. They rewrite reality to protect their ego, even if it means damaging the relationship or sabotaging their own growth. You can't reason with someone who treats disagreement as disrespect, and it takes a toll. You find yourself avoiding certain topics just to keep the peace. You stay silent during arguments because it's pointless. You reduce yourself to make them feel bigger. But Stoicism warns us, when you shrink to accommodate someone else's ego, you betray your own integrity. Epictetus said that the biggest fool is the one who refuses to examine his own beliefs. And that is exactly who you're dealing with. They don't want the truth. They want the illusion of superiority. This illusion makes them dangerous. People who always think they're right never grow, never evolve, never improve. They stay stuck, but they expect you to stay stuck with them. That's where the Stoic protocol comes in. Pause. Don't argue with someone who isn't capable of dialogue. Probe. Notice the pattern. Do they ever admit fault? Protect. Set emotional distance. Don't give energy to circular arguments. You don't need to prove them wrong. Life will do it for you. When someone refuses to learn, you must refuse to carry the weight of their arrogance. That's the truth. The person who always thinks they're right is already losing the moment the conversation begins. Not because they're unintelligent, but because they are unteachable. And nothing drains your peace faster than someone who refuses to grow. 3. They blame others for everything. Some people never take responsibility because admitting fault feels like admitting weakness. And nothing reveals foolishness faster than a person who always finds someone else to blame. Stoics viewed blame shifting as one of the lowest forms of ignorance, the kind that keeps a person trapped in the same problems year after year. When someone refuses to take responsibility, they also refuse to grow. Seneca wrote that no man becomes wise by accident, and the opposite is true too. No one becomes foolish by accident. It comes from a long habit of avoiding accountability. Blame is the shield of the weak and the prison of the foolish. Spend time with someone like this, and you'll notice the pattern immediately. Every mistake has an external cause. Every failure is someone else's fault. Their boss, their parents, their partner, the system, bad luck, the universe, anyone but themselves. They have an endless list of excuses ready at all times, and they deploy them like armor to protect their fragile ego. The irony. Blame doesn't protect them. It traps them. Instead of learning, they defend. Instead of reflecting, they attack. Instead of improving, they repeat the same destructive cycles. This mindset makes relationships exhausting. You can't build anything real with someone who refuses to acknowledge their part in conflicts. You end up carrying double weight, solving your mistakes and compensating for theirs. You apologize just to move forward. You over-explain to avoid their defensiveness. You soften every truth to avoid setting them off. Their lack of accountability becomes your emotional labor, and you feel it deeply. Because dealing with someone who never looks inward forces you to constantly look inward, even for things that aren't your fault. It twists your sense of clarity and fairness. It makes you question yourself more than the situation deserves. Stoicism gives a simple antidote to this chaos. Responsibility is the root of power. You cannot control what you refuse to own. Epictetus taught that freedom begins the moment you claim your part in every experience. Foolish people do the opposite. They surrender their power every time they say, "It wasn't me." A person who blames everyone else is telling you one thing: I am not ready to be an adult in this situation. The Stoic protocol is crucial here. Pause. Don't absorb their accusations. Probe. Ask yourself, is this my responsibility or their projection? Protect. Set firm boundaries. Distance yourself from tasks, emotions, or consequences that rightly belong to them. You're not responsible for cleaning up someone else's patterns. You're not responsible for carrying their guilt. You're not responsible for their refusal to grow. Some people don't want solutions. They want someone to blame. And the wisest thing you can do, the Stoic thing, is refuse to play the role they've written for you. 4. They repeat the same mistakes without learning. Some people don't make mistakes. They recycle them. Different day, different situation, same outcome, because they never change the behavior that caused it. This is one of the most revealing signs of a foolish person, an inability or unwillingness to learn from their own patterns. Everyone messes up, the wise, the successful, the disciplined. Mistakes are not the problem. What separates wisdom from stupidity is what happens after the mistake. A wise person analyzes. A foolish person repeats. Stoics believed mistakes are teachers. Seneca said that every error contains a lesson if you're brave enough to look at it honestly. But a foolish person avoids that honesty. They avoid reflection the way others avoid pain, not knowing that their avoidance creates more pain later. You'll see this in their relationships, jobs, habits, finances, friendships. They keep choosing the same toxic partners. They keep quitting when things get hard. They keep spending what they don't have. They keep reacting instead of thinking. And every time the consequences return, they act surprised, as if the world is conspiring against them instead of their own choices catching up. There's nothing more predictable than a person who refuses self-reflection. And the emotional toll is heavy. When you're close to someone like this, you find yourself watching the same disaster unfold on repeat, knowing exactly where it's headed because you've seen it before. You try to help, you try to warn them, you try to show them the pattern, but they don't want awareness. They want relief. They want comfort. They want someone else to soften the blow so they never have to grow. Stoicism warns against this kind of thinking because it destroys personal agency. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the greatest tragedy is to live without examining the mind that drives your choices. Without examination, there is no evolution. Without evolution, there is only repetition. And repetition, without reflection, becomes self-sabotage. When someone won't look at their patterns will control them. This affects everyone around them. You end up in the role of rescuer, advisor, emotional buffer, or crisis manager, none of which is healthy. You feel drained because you're dealing with the same issue disguised in a new scenario. You start to realize the problem isn't the situation, it's the person's refusal to grow from it. That's where the Stoic protocol becomes non-negotiable. Pause. Stop trying to fix cycles they choose to stay in. Probe. Ask, do they change after pain, or do they return to the same behaviors? Protect. Create distance. Don't invest your time in patterns someone refuses to break. You can encourage growth. You can model growth, but you cannot force growth. Some people don't change because they haven't suffered enough. Some don't change because others keep saving them, and some don't change because they simply don't want to. Your job is not to repeat their mistakes with them. Your job is to recognize the cycle and step out of it. 5. They talk a lot, but understand very little. Some people speak with confidence, but their confidence has no foundation. Their volume is high, their depth is low. This is one of the most recognizable signs of a foolish person, an endless stream of words that reveal nothing but how little they actually know. Stoics warned about this centuries ago. Epictetus said we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, to listen twice as much as we speak. But foolish people reverse that ratio. They speak first, think later, and understand. Never. They talk like experts, but they think like amateurs. Spend time with someone like this and you'll notice the pattern immediately. They dominate conversations, cut people off, and rush to give opinions they didn't earn. They speak in absolutes, always, never, everyone knows. Trust me, because certainty is easier than comprehension. But behind the confidence is emptiness. Behind the noise is insecurity. Behind the assertiveness is a mind that never paused long enough to actually learn. And here's the deeper truth. They talk to avoid silence, because silence might expose how little they actually know. This shows up in all areas of life. They give financial advice while drowning in debt. They lecture about relationships while destroying their own. They critique others' careers while having no direction themselves. They argue about topics they've never studied. They repeat slogans instead of forming thoughts. Their mind isn't thinking, it's echoing. What they lack in knowledge, they try to compensate with noise. The emotional burden falls on you. Conversations with them feel like mental quicksand. The more you try to clarify, the deeper they pull you into confusion. You try to offer nuance, but they flatten everything into black and white assumptions. You try to explain, and they accuse you of overcomplicating things. You try to engage, and they talk over you as if volume equals truth. You cannot build understanding with someone who fears complexity. Stoicism teaches that real wisdom is quiet. It observes more than it speaks. It questions more than it claims. It listens more than it reacts. Foolish people do the opposite. They talk to win social points, not to gain clarity. They speak to be admired, not to be informed. And because of this, they never grow. You cannot fill a cup that believes it's already full. A closed mind makes an open mouth dangerous. Here is where the Stoic protocol protects you. Pause. Don't match their energy. Let their noise expose itself. Probe. Ask simple questions like, how do you know? Or, what makes you think that? Their certainty usually collapses under scrutiny. Protect. Limit deep conversations. Don't debate people who confuse talking with thinking. Your peace is too valuable to waste on someone who mistakes noise for knowledge. Some people don't want to understand. They want to be heard, even when they have nothing to say. And the wisest thing you can do is recognize this early. Step back and save your energy for people who speak to connect, not to perform. 6. They can't control their emotions. Some people don't feel emotions. They detonate them. Their anger is instant. Their mood swings are violent. Their reactions are unpredictable. And nothing exposes foolishness faster than a person who allows every passing feeling to dictate their behavior. Stoics taught that the undisciplined mind is like an untrained horse, loud, wild, and dangerous to everyone around it. A person who cannot regulate their emotions becomes a walking storm, loud, destructive, and unable to see the destruction they leave behind. When someone can't control their emotions, conversations become minefields. You never know what will trigger them. A neutral comment, a minor inconvenience, a harmless question. Their feelings become the unquestioned authority in the room, and suddenly, you're adjusting your tone, your words, your energy, not because you're wrong, but because you're trying not to set them off. Their emotions don't stay inside them, they spill onto everyone else. You'll see this sign in everyday situations. They escalate small issues into dramatic meltdowns. They interpret calm feedback as an attack. They hold grudges longer than the event lasted. They panic over possibilities instead of dealing with realities. They explode at the slightest discomfort and then expect others to absorb the fallout. Emotional control isn't just maturity. It's moral responsibility. Marcus Aurelius wrote that human greatness begins with mastering the inner world. But foolish people have surrendered that inner world entirely. They believe their emotions are truth, their impulses are justified, their reactions are deserved. The wise examine their feelings. The foolish unleash them, and the impact on you is real. You become the shock absorber for their instability. You soothe, you explain, you overthink, you tiptoe. Not because you're weak, but because you're exhausted. Living around emotional volatility drains your clarity, your patience, and your identity. You start questioning yourself instead of the situation. That's the danger. not the storm, but what the storm does to your sense of self. Stoicism offers a simple and powerful antidote. Pause. Don't mirror their emotion. Emotional mirroring gives them control over your state. Probe. Ask yourself, is this a real problem, or is this their lack of self-regulation? Protect. Set boundaries around tone, timing, and access. Distance when necessary. You are not required to manage someone else's emotional temperature. You're not required to shrink so they won't erupt. You're not required to become the caretaker of their feelings. Some people don't want peace. They want the permission to rage. The Stoic truth is uncomfortable but liberating. If someone cannot control their emotions, you must control your proximity to them, because proximity to chaos is chaos. And nothing is more foolish than sacrificing your inner peace to protect someone who refuses to protect their own. 7. They follow the crowd. Instead of thinking for themselves, some people don't have opinions. They borrow them. They don't choose their beliefs. They adopt whatever the crowd is shouting the loudest. This is one of the most subtle, yet most dangerous, signs of a foolish person, an inability to think independently. Stoics fought fiercely against herd mentality. Marcus Aurelius warned that the greatest threat to a person's character is becoming absorbed into the noise of the masses. And that's exactly what happens when someone replaces thinking with following. A foolish person wants belonging more than truth. A wise person wants truth more than belonging. You'll see this sign everywhere. They switch opinions depending on who's in the room. They echo whatever their friends say, whatever social media says, whatever feels popular or easy. They conform because critical thinking requires effort and courage. And cowardice loves company. In relationships, it looks like someone who changes their values to fit in. At work, it's the person who supports whatever decision the group makes, even if it's terrible. In social settings, it's the person who joins the mockery, the gossip, or the outrage just to avoid standing out. They would rather be accepted by many than respected by themselves. Stoics considered this spiritual weakness. When someone can't form their own judgment, they become a vessel for the worst impulses of the crowd: fear, anger, pettiness, cruelty. The herd amplifies insecurity, and insecure people cling to the herd for identity. But a person without an inner compass isn't harmless. They become capable of participating in behaviors they'd never commit alone. History proves this painfully well. Entire societies have fallen because people didn't think for themselves, and the emotional impact on you is severe. You can't trust someone who changes based on the audience. You can't build with someone whose values shift with the wind. You can't rely on someone who chooses acceptance over integrity. If you need the crowd to know who you are, you don't know who you are. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Solitude builds character. Independent thought builds strength. Inner stillness builds direction. Epictetus said that if you want to be wise, you must be willing to stand alone. That's why foolish people struggle. Standing alone requires a spine, not an audience. Here's how the Stoic protocol guides you. Pause. Notice when someone constantly references they, everyone, people think. Probe. Ask yourself, do they ever think for themselves, or do they follow whatever feels safe? Protect. Don't let crowd followers steer your decisions, your emotions, or your values. Distance from the herd often means distance from them. You cannot depend on a person who doesn't depend on themselves. You cannot trust someone whose beliefs are rented, not earned. You cannot anchor your life to someone who floats wherever the current takes them. Some people follow the crowd because they're terrified of meeting who they are without it. Your job, the Stoic job, is to think clearly, stand firmly, and choose your path without needing applause. 8. They refuse to improve or gain self-awareness. Some people don't lack potential. They lack the courage to confront themselves. They avoid mirrors, not the glass kind, but the emotional ones. This is the final and most defining sign of a foolish person, a complete refusal to grow. Not because they can't, but because growth requires honesty, humility, and discomfort. 3 things they spend their entire life avoiding. Stoics believed self-awareness was the foundation of wisdom. Without it, a person becomes stuck in the same identity, the same habits, the same failures, year after year. A wise person asks, "Where can I improve?" A foolish person asks, "Who can I blame?" You'll see this sign whenever life gives them feedback. When someone points out a flaw, they get offended. When someone suggests a better way, they get defensive. When consequences appear, they look for excuses. They treat growth like criticism and criticism like an attack. And because of that, they stay exactly where they are. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. They avoid reflection because reflection forces truth. They avoid feedback because feedback forces responsibility. They avoid change because change forces accountability. They want progress without the price, and that price is ego, the willingness to say, "Maybe I'm wrong," or "Maybe I can do better." But they won't. Their identity is built on fragile certainty, and growth threatens the version of themselves they're desperately trying to protect. In relationships, this makes them impossible to build with. You can't solve problems because they insist they don't have any. You can't discuss issues because they shut down or fight back. You can't evolve together because they refuse to evolve alone. Their stagnation becomes a weight you end up carrying. You grow. They stay the same, and the distance becomes emotional gravity. Stoicism views growth as a lifelong duty. Marcus Aurelius ended every day examining his actions. Seneca said no man becomes good by accident, but foolish people believe improvement is unnecessary or beneath them. They want the benefits of wisdom without the discipline of acquiring it. They want respect without self-respect. They want a better life without becoming a better person. And here's the truth. A person who refuses to grow will eventually resent anyone who does. That's why the Stoic protocol matters more here than anywhere else. Pause. Don't waste energy trying to wake them up. People grow only when they want to. Probe. Ask yourself, is this a behavior they're trying to correct, or a comfort zone they want to live in forever? Protect. Distance emotionally. Don't tie your future to someone who is committed to their past. Growth is optional. Change is optional. Self-awareness is optional, but so is staying in someone's life. Some people don't fear failure. They fear the version of themselves they'd have to become to succeed. Your job isn't to drag them forward. Your job is to keep walking and let those who refuse to grow stay where they've chosen to be. Now that you've seen all 8 signs, remember this. Awareness is only the first half of wisdom. Boundaries are the second. Seeing the pattern is your wake-up call. Responding to the pattern is your self-respect. If someone constantly makes you question your reality, pause. If someone refuses responsibility, step back. If someone repeats the same chaos, stop fixing what they break. And if someone rejects growth, don't sacrifice your own to carry them. Stoicism teaches a simple truth. You cannot save people who cling to their worst habits, but you can save your energy, your peace, and your future. Use the Stoic Framework whenever you recognize foolishness. See the behavior clearly. Still your reaction. Sort what belongs to you and what doesn't. Separate mentally, emotionally, or physically when needed. This isn't coldness. It's clarity. It's courage. It's choosing your own sanity over someone else's chaos. As we close, remember this. Growth requires intention. Peace requires protection. And your life becomes lighter the moment you stop carrying people who refuse to carry themselves. You deserve relationships that elevate you, conversations that sharpen you, and environments that honor your effort. Don't let foolishness, in any form, anchor you to a smaller version of yourself. If today's video helped you see certain patterns more clearly, take one small action. Practice one boundary in the next 24 hours. Even a simple pause, a calm "not today," or pulling back your energy can change everything. Thank you for spending your time here, for choosing clarity, and for choosing growth. If this message resonated, like, share, and comment below. I protect my peace.